says I better get used to the gas. I creep and still I believe that the God above you.
What's going on, everybody? It's Rob Morris. Welcome to At the Elephants. We're back. It's an exciting time. It's going to be really great. I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. To be more specific, I'm in Whittier, California, which is in southeast LA, basically. Here for a month till the end of February, and then moving to Hollywood with my good buddy and NCSA alum Joe Flanders, 2010 filmmaking. He is the star and creator of the Average Joe web series, but we're going to get more into that later because, as you can imagine, he will be on the show. That being said, I want to mention a couple things. I mean, I've said so many times on this show that, like, something's going to happen. I said I was going to do a finale for New Year's, for the last season, and I wasn't able to do that, which I'm not happy about. And several other promises that have gone unfulfilled on this program. And I was also thinking about all of the effort I've made on my own to, just push the show out and be like, everyone, please listen. I think I'm done with that. I mean, it's not to say I'm not going to promote the show anymore. I will promote the show, but this like begging everybody to listen. I mean, it's a niche market. There's only so many people who want to hear this show anyway. And if you're going to listen, you're probably already listening. So I appreciate that a lot. There's some loyal listeners to this program, to which I'm deeply grateful. But otherwise, shit, I don't care. Whatever. Listen to the show, don't listen to the show. Does not matter to me. I wanted to have this, YouTube community, I was thinking, and with iTunes, and people be commenting and sharing and engaging, and I just don't think that's this kind of program. I mean, if it is, I'm not doing it right. So instead of trying to push a square block into a round hole, I'm just going to let this show be what it is. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm excited about being out here in LA, which means I think a lot more high-profile guests on the show, which would be exciting. And, if you dig it, you dig it. If you don't, get the hell out of here. Who cares? I don't make any money off of this. So it's not like the more people watch, the more money I make. I don't make any money as of right now. So, who cares? You want to share this with a friend, you think they'd like it? Great. I'm going to make it either way. So let's move on to our guest for today. Where does one even start with Ashley Gates Jansen? Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a tough intro to give. I recently went to the No Rules Rule Breaker Awards. I guess that was a few summers ago. And they gave the Rule Breaker Award while that company was around to Ashley. And the intro they gave to her was just like, it reads like a list of a patron saint. It's hard not to be overly kind about this woman. It's hard not to be hyperbolic when you talk about her because she's that special. She's that important to that many people. I have her on this show because she is a graduate of the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, at the time, North Carolina School of the Arts, School of Drama Directing Program under Gerald Freedman. As a matter of fact, she and a gentleman named Greg Vore, who I was happy to meet at that Rule Breaker Award, by the way, she and Greg Vore were Gerald's first graduates of that directing program. They're from the very early days in the 90s there, the mid-90s to early 90s. John Langs, Jeremy Skidmore, they're both going to be on the show, by the way. But, they're in that heyday, and Ashley in particular is one of the first. And Daniel Kelly, Stephen Kopp, Wiley Gorn, and I were actually the last graduates of Gerald's program. So it holds a special place in my heart to talk to her as, bookends of his directing education legacy. Ashley has an amazing TEDx talk from TEDx Wilmington. So her TED Talk, in which she really tells one of the pivotal stories in her life that she's told many times. She doesn't really discuss that on this program. I want to say that ahead of time. A lot of you who might know Ashley are thinking like, oh, you're going to get her to tell the story about Jerusalem and all that. I didn't see the point in that. She does such an incredible job in that TED Talk that I advise you all to look up. Again, it's Ashley Gates Jansen. I believe it's TEDx Wilmington. It's where she did the speech. It's incredible. The fierce embrace. It's incredible. Go watch, go listen, go love. But in the meantime, before you do that, so don't leave us just yet, I want you to get to know Ashley before that. Because honestly, I didn't know a lot about Ashley before her time at School of the Arts, and I believe our chat takes us right up to her time there, and during, I believe. So let's listen to that, and then when you're done, as soon as you're done, and you're still in Ashley Jansen mode, skip on over to YouTube, type in Ashley Gates Jansen, type in TEDx, and have a listen, because you're never going to get tired of this woman's voice. Just on the shorthand to throw some things out, she was going to school in Burlington, Vermont for her undergraduate degree when my man, Mr. Bernie Sanders, was the mayor of Burlington. So there's a nice little crossover with our current political world. Also, she was a teacher for me at School of the Arts. She taught for many years at School of the Arts and directed as a guest teacher and director. She's a life coach. She's a minister. She works regularly with people, introducing them to the work of Byron Katie, what's called The Work, a way to re-examine the way that your person and your spirit deals with thoughts and their truthfulness. I advise you all to look into Byron Katie as well if you're not familiar with her work. So yeah, let's get right on to it and talk to Miss Ashley Gates Jansen.
Watch me fall apart and put me inside of a box. Look at me run off, you can't catch this fucking fox.
I'll keep that in mind.
They gave me Studio 2 this year during Intensive Arts too, which is a bonus.
What are you doing with them? The same stuff?
Nope.
Cool.
It's that amazing thing where like what wants to happen just shows up in the space, and my job is to listen.
That's how I explain not having a curriculum at school. When I showed up to the beginning of working at the Piedmont School, they said, do you want to buy a curriculum? Like we could get a book and some lesson plans and stuff. And against my better judgment, I said, no, don't buy anything like that. Let me just get to know the kids first. And it was like the end of the first day, and I was like, I know what I'm doing. It just made sense to me.
No.
I just knew what I was going to do.
Yeah.
And that's how it works for you?
That is totally how it works for me. I have something in my back pocket, and then I'm always ready to not take it out.
What would you say the ratio is of how many times you have to go to that back pocket thing?
Well, eventually I get to the back pocket. Because that's what I was intending, at some point. Yeah. It feels like what needs to happen always does.
Right.
And gets done.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been teaching the text class now. I think this is my 12th, maybe 11th or 12th year. And there's still many of the exercises are the same.
Mm-hmm. And
I never know how we're going to get through them all. I never know how they're all going to get done.
And yet they do.
And they all get done.
Nice.
Yeah.
What a scary, safe place to be in. Do you feel weird being anxious about it each year when you're like, oh, how we're going to... But then you have that calming notion of like, but it always does.
Well, that's the beautiful thing. It's like you can't be anxious and trust.
Mm.
And I really trust. more
Right.
and more wholeheartedly.
So it's okay. So semi-mistruth. I ask one question standardly, which is, where are you from?
What a great question.
Joe Mills teaches an interviewing class here this
Yeah.
semester, which I taught. Oh my gosh, I kill myself for running that. Saying that out loud. He asked me to come speak at, and he said, "Never ask that. It's the most boring question ever. Where are you from?" And I told the kids myself, I disagree. I think it's the most interesting thing about anybody.
Yeah.
So where are you from?
Well, it's funny because in my mind I'm like, but who are you asking, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to be all, but to like truly share. That's where my mind went.
Right.
And I think what you're asking is where did Ashley, where is Ashley from? And she was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was raised just outside of Wilmington, Delaware.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where she's from.
And why do you speak in the third person that way?
No, well, I just meant, like when you say, where are you from?
Right.
There's also a spiritual being in here
Right.
who, would have a different answer.
What's that answer?
In this moment, it's, I don't remember.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I think at the same time that I became a teenager was the same time I started embracing those kinds of thoughts. It's like, I don't know. When I was younger, it was not okay to hear that as an answer to anything.
Yeah.
Well, where does Santa Claus come from and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. Unacceptable. Where is the truth? And then later, it's like, well, where did the universe start? You know what? I just have no idea,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
And to be honest, I think I'm grateful for mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And for the truth of that. Like, there is an inherent element of mystery to our being.
Right.
And I actually rest in that more than kind of run from it or try to define it or.
So when your physical form was much smaller physically,
Yes.
what did it do for fun?
Well, a big thing was riding.
Like horses?
Yeah.
Nice.
And I just, I grew up in an area where there was a lot of fox hunting, there was a lot of horse shows, and I did some of those, but what I really loved was just like being with my pony and like riding around the ring and going out on trails, and there's just there's a wordlessness with an animal, and a connection that's super sweet and delicious.
Do you have other animals? Like growing up, you had a lot of pets, or?
We did have a few pets. We had quite a few dogs. We had a rabbit.
What was your rabbit's name?
I can't remember.
Oh, that's okay.
I want to say like Snowball.
That's such a rabbit name.
It's such a rabbit name.
That's like a dog named Spot, rabbit named Snowball.
It's true.
It's not bad. It's no crime.
I know.
It's a great name. Makes sense.
Then we had these dogs. We had 2 ponies, bunch of dogs, rabbit. We had a little bird, but she or he didn't last very long. Like got caught in the cage.
How much land is all these animals on?
Well, the ponies were at a barn, like not where I lived. And then the dogs, we only ever had 2 at a time. It's just how long they lived.
Right. Tell me about your parents.
So, my father lives here in Winston.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tall, drink, a handsome fellow.
Tall, drink, a handsome fellow, and he's a writer. He's written a couple of books, and he was an editor for the newspaper.
It's John Gates we're talking about.
That's John Gates we're talking about. And my mother, Carol, now Carpenter, she was Carol Morgan. She was raised in Delaware, and she's a beautiful, beautiful soul, a beautiful being. She's different than me, and yet in some ways very similar.
How are you different?
She dresses impeccably.
And you don't?
Well, in my own stylish way.
Right?
Yes.
No one dresses like you. And you dress like you better than anybody I could imagine.
That's very.
And I know that you know I mean that in the most sincerest of complimentary ways.
So I get that from her. It just looks different on me.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Siblings?
Well, my parents divorced when I was 4.
Gotcha.
And then remarried when I was 5. So I have a brother who has the same parents. We're a year apart. And then I have a sister from my mother and my stepfather. And then I have another sister and brother from my father's second marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have 3 step-siblings from my stepfather's previous marriage.
Are you one of those... Well, first of all, I want to say congratulations on the traditional American family.
Yeah.
And second of all, because I can relate, second of all, are you one of those kind of all over the place families that are related in different ways that all kind of mash together and get along, and spend time together, or is it one of those like you're all separate because you cross paths at different times? You know what I mean? Like I know friends that have kids from different marriages or things like that, but they all still kind of hang out on the holidays as one big group. Or is that your case? Or
growing up, there was kind of a core 6 siblings that were often together for the holidays, and as we grew up, there's quite an age range, and people's lives just go in different directions. But in my experience, I've got a lot of love for each of my siblings, and funnily enough, I have 7 brothers and sisters when you break it all down. And my husband, Rob, has
name.
7. It's a great name. Has 7 brothers and sisters from the same parents.
Wow, that's crazy. I think I have 4.
Yeah.
But none of them full blood.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. So why aren't you a professional horse rider?
I stopped riding in 6th grade because I started doing sports after school.
Which ones?
Field hockey, basketball, and lacrosse.
Which is favorite?
Lacrosse.
Which is best at?
Lacrosse.
Nice. That's a good combo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
I don't
that
know
sport.
anything about lacrosse. What position did you play on? Is it a pitch? Is it a field?
No.
What do you have over there?
It's a field. I played first home, which is closest attack position to the goal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Is that you get a lot of contact in that position?
Well, it's girls lacrosse.
What does that
so
mean in contrast?
That means we're not hitting each other.
Okay.
The way it can be full contact for the guys, I think.
Right.
But we would check. We would what you call check, which is when you hit their stick to
Right.
make the ball pop out.
Got it. Is it like hockey where like you check somebody but really it's smashing their face in with your stick a little bit?
Well, that can happen, but you can also get a penalty for that. So,
Right. I was watching something recently about, I think it was hockey, and I wonder sometimes if there are other sports that I know less about that are like this. But hockey is really one of those sports where you can just like straight up assault somebody in the most brutal way, and you're given the most brief of timeouts
I know.
as a punishment. That is it.
I know. The comedian Rodney Dangerfield said, last night I went to a fight and a hockey game broke out.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it's true.
That's a wild thing. So how come you're not a professional lacrosse player?
So, it's one of those, it feels like a curse and then you find out it was a blessing. I really kind of blew out my knee. In high school, and, when I graduated, I went... When I graduated high school, the thought of going to college for 4 years was, I'm going to use the word soul-crushing.
Sure.
I just felt like, 4 more years, I just don't think I can do it.
That's how I felt, definitely.
So I went into my college counselor's office, and I sat down, and I said, what do you have in another country? Like, if I'm going to go somewhere, I'm not going to do it here. And she said, that's so funny that you're asking me because I just got a brochure today from Franklin College. And I said, where is that? And she said, Switzerland. And I said, well, that sounds good. So I went to Franklin College for a year in Switzerland, in Lugano, Switzerland, which is the Italian-speaking region.
Okay.
Yum. The best of both worlds. Italian food, Italian language, and it's clean and neat and, Swiss. So,
right.
So that was amazing. And there I encountered a theater teacher who spoke about theater in a way that all of my being showed up.
How long had you been doing it?
I had, in my senior year of high school, I was in the play God by Woody Allen, where I played Wendy, can't remember her last name. And I just like I was drawn to the theater, but I don't think I was very talented, kind of acting wise, like maybe I was okay in a smaller part, but like I couldn't, I don't know. I was too self-conscious, I think.
Right. That's kind of the opposite of Eric Guggesberg, because he played Hamlet when he was a senior, and it was like the first thing he'd ever done. And I guess he was just like, nailed it. Guess I'll go to school for it.
Damn straight. Yeah, well, at Franklin College, I was in Waiting for Godot, and I played Pazzo. And I just was like, this is a world I want to inhabit.
Yeah.
Like, I loved rehearsals. I loved the conversations. I loved the creating, like the act of out of nothing something.
Yes, totally.
Really magnetizing for me.
How long are you in Switzerland?
I was there for a year. I would have stayed for another year. My parents, I think, thought I was having too much fun, although let it be...
You were, right?
Totally. And let it be known, first time I made Dean's List. It's like I was jamming, but, So I went to the University of Vermont.
Okay.
Mountains, like Switzerland,
sure,
which was great. And
I've been digging Vermont lately.
Vermont. For me, Vermont is a West Coast state on the East Coast. It just has its own great vibe. When I was a student there, Bernie Sanders was our mayor.
Right.
We were Vermont. We were
pretty
different.
Jealous of that.
It was cool. And he was just, man about town. You'd see him and you'd be like, Bernie. And he'd say, how are you?
How are you doing?
How are you doing?
You a Bernie fan?
Yes.
You like him for president?
Probably. Although I'm going to be really honest and say I haven't tracked it enough yet to really say. Yeah. But I love his I think he's got a lot of integrity, and that
goes a long way for me.
That goes a long way for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. We a bunch of us in several different groups. He spoke in Greensboro. We all went out. And man, really knows how to electrify a crowd. It's the stuff he says really gets into your head in the way that a politician should, in the way that they should function, in the way that elected representation should make you feel. They should get up and stand up and say things that when you hear it, you go, yeah, why aren't we doing things that way? That seems like the best thing for everybody. Like, that is exactly the response you should have to everything a politician says, and yet that's not often the reaction that a lot of people get. It seems to be so twisted around everything else.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot of politics, in my experience, feels very fear-driven.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't want fear in the White House.
Right.
You know.
Do you think that's a newer thing, or do you think that's always been a thing, or is it always gonna be a thing, or?
I don't know, because I don't know enough about history, really. You
Right.
know? Like, I didn't live it, so I don't know.
Yeah. No, I get that.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I feel like the stories that I hear and the things that I watch, it's gotten a lot, especially, you know, with the saturation of media and stuff like that. It's easy to make a big group of people feel something in a group really fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you send out one thing, and if it catches fire in the right direction, now millions of people are under a certain impression and maybe feeling this mob mentality, at least at a proportionally quicker scale than it used to work.
Yeah.
It used to have to, like, wait until your town got it in the paper.
Yeah.
You know? And that is when you would be like, oh, wait, hey, did you read 3 days ago in the paper about how there's this really messed up stuff going on in D.C.? And now it's like, did you hear that this morning, you know, they made this choice, and it accelerates everything so quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the time when you listened to the candidates by the radio.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where you didn't have the visual.
Was there an election that you were
Like that.
particularly passionate or involved in, like a presidential election?
Well, I mean, I can hear my husband laughing. I voted for Ross Perot, which, you know...
If nothing else, to hear his voice for as long as possible.
And I will tell you something. I was like, I wanted something different.
Right.
You know?
Boy, was he that.
And I was like, here's somebody who's going to do it differently.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know, but I say yes to I don't know.
Sure.
The George Bush's re-election was a little bit of a shock to my system, because I did not see that coming. And again, I think, you know, there was a lot of fear that was being generated.
I was in Rockefeller Center that night with my best friend, one of my best friends from high school, who was going to NYU, and I was going to high school in New York. And they turned the side of the building where they put the Christmas tree into this big bar graph. And so they had these painter scaffoldings on the side of the building that would go up. And so they would raise it and flip over these numbers on each side for how many electoral votes.
Yeah.
I guess Kerry was getting versus W. And Will and I were standing there kind of it was funny too, because we also watched Obama get elected to the Senate that night. And he pointed him out to me, and he was like, you probably don't know about this guy who just got elected to the Senate in Illinois, but you need to look him up, because I'm telling you, he's a big deal. I'll never forget that moment for the rest of my life. And he was like, yeah, and he was like, Brandon and I were just talking about him. So we're watching these two bar graph things go up, and the red one just keeps getting higher. And we're like, no, not really. Like, yeah, they should be close. And then there was a point in the night when it's like, the blue one's really not going to get any higher. It was the saddest thing. And I was 15, and I knew nothing about what was going on, really, or you know, able to wrap my head around, especially anything going on with the war. But I knew how I felt about certain principal things, and I, you know, certainly would feel the same way if I were there today. But it was such a hard thing to watch. And since then, I've not had to do that.
Well, 4 years later, November 2008, I was in South Africa.
Wow.
And that was an amazing
Where
experience.
in South Africa?
I was...
only because I can think of the names of like 3 towns in my head.
I was at a place called Londolozi, which is a...
Damn.
It wasn't one of those.
It wasn't one of those 3.
This was a game park, a game farm. Beautiful, beautiful place. And people were coming up to me. It was so, it felt so good and so amazing to be an American.
Incredible.
And people were like, congratulations. This is amazing. And, you know.
I think I was on a plane. Like, I took off, and it was like fingers crossed, and I landed. It was like, nice. It was like a 4-hour plane too, so it was just long enough for like all the major stuff to be determined while I was up in the air. It was up in the air, if you will.
Yeah.
As was
chair, in the air.
So anyway, you're doing some theater in Switzerland.
Yeah.
And then you go to Vermont and you do some more theater in Vermont. Mm-hmm. And then what?
And then I graduate from Vermont and I go to New York City and I work for a couple of theater producers, and they just send me out around town. Like, I read scripts and I go to all the backers auditions, and basically I'm their eyes and ears, and then I come back and I tell them if I like something or not. And I saw a lot of bad theater. And then I saw one thing that I absolutely loved.
Which was?
And I came back and I told them, and they didn't think that it was commercial enough. I still think it touched me so much. It's the name of it has been changed. It was The Stone Cutter. It's a William Master-Simone play. And it's the story of a man there's a series of houses by a highway, and the highway has bought out the houses to add on to the highway, and he is the last house. And he makes, like, stone angels out of stone or something. And he doesn't want to sell. And it's him, his son, and his son's wife. And I just remember loving it, living it. And, it was simple, small, beautiful.
You tie a bunch of balloons to that house and you've got up.
Right?
It's similar in that mentality.
Yeah.
What was it about the show that touched you think?
The relationships, the struggle between kind of money and your soul or beauty. I wish I could speak more articulately about it. It's been almost 30 years since I've seen it. But you know how you can see a piece of theater, but it wasn't theater because it was lived.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that's what was happening in that.
Wow.
And I always want that to
be
shared.
What year did you see that?
So it would have been 89, 90.
Gotcha.
Yeah, right around then.
So by my very poor calculations, as all of mine are, not long after that, you end up down in this neck of the woods somewhere?
Yes, I came down in the fall of 92. I had been in Vermont. Some friends of mine started a theater company, and they asked me to move back up and direct, to which I said, hell yes. And I directed a couple of plays, and I realized, like, I kind of think I have a talent for this, but I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just saying things like, well, try coming in from over there. Yeah, that looks better.
Right.
What happens if you stand up on that line? Oh, okay. But
it's like the first thing, if you're going to be a director, the first thing you notice is that you have opinions.
Yeah.
And strong enough ones that you feel like, well, you know what, I won't say them out loud because this isn't my play, but, they really should come in from the other side. That's the moment when you're like, well, think about it.
Yeah.
So you're doing that in Vermont?
So I was doing that in Vermont, realizing, like, I want a craft. I want to weigh in. I want to know how to be better at this. And I started, getting applications from different schools. And my father, who lives in Winston, my stepmother was doing some volunteer work here. Like, she was taking students to the dentist when they had a dentist appointment. And
right.
And she and my dad had befriended Robert and Gerald. And in the course of, like, a friendly, dinner conversation or something, Gerald said that he was going to start a directing program. And my father said, well, my daughter is looking for a directing program, so I'm going to have her, come and talk to you. And I did, and I came down here and interviewed with Gerald and did a couple monologues, and then was just thrilled to get in. And it was the beginning of his directing program, myself and Greg Vore.
Who I got to meet maybe last summer at some point. He came up for the, when you got the rule breaker thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of hung out at that because he didn't know anybody and I didn't know anybody, and we were both only there because we wanted to support you and, be involved in all that stuff, and it's great. We were just kind of like, wow, a lot of people, we have no idea who these people are. So I got to know him a little bit, and, it's interesting across the, I must say that I'd get along with everybody who was ever in the program, but there is a similar language, I think, that just kind of stays there.
Yeah.
And I think that's Gerald's fault, but...
Yeah. Thank you, Gerald.
Yeah. It's really a pretty special thing.
For sure.
So how was that for you?
Amazing. Gregory and I complemented each other in such a great way. We were really different, and there were...
Where's Greg from?
All over. Army.
Like Army brat?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
All over. Japan, Georgia, Texas.
Right.
Bases.
Pretty basic childhood. Got it.
Yeah, I just... Some of the best times in my life were right in this room with Gregory and Gerald.
Yeah, it was just the three of you?
It was just the three of us.
So at that point, when Gerald was like, I think I'm going to start a directing program, what did that mean for you at the time?
The art pack.
Right. So he really changed it up. Yeah. For those who don't know, I did the exact same assignments.
The art pack, the, going to the museum, writing about the portrait, writing about the landscape.
So he really did come up with a curriculum and then teach it for 20 years exactly and change it like almost not at all.
He really did.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like you didn't ever... There was no point in which you said that to us. So, by the way, you're doing the exact same things that we did. But I guess we assumed... But that's an interesting thing about my perception of a conservatory when I got here, is I thought that's what it was. And to a degree, I think it is. But as I understood it, and this I think was because of the way Gerald ran the drama school, I thought there's just a way to do it, period, and you don't change it. It's just the same, and it works, and it's a big machine, and you put the kids in the one end, and then, some make it out, and the ones that make it out the other end are better off for it, and ta-da, that's it. Like, but, it doesn't always work that way for everybody, and things evolve, and things change, and not just in regards to this place, but any place. But I think I was kind of spoiled by that idea, because it did seem to, for all its flaws and shiny moments, overall it seemed to work as a system. Did you see that in the beginning?
Yeah.
As a student?
I mean, yes, I think the container was strong and good. And what I loved about Gerald's gifts through my 2 years in the directing program were he was not trying to make me him.
Right.
He, for the directors who are listening, I'm sure that you will nod your head. He was like, I'm giving you the meat and potatoes of directing. Mm-hmm. And I'm a vegetarian, so what does that look like? But he said to me, darling, you will direct differently than I will. I want to help you be the best director that you can be, because you have your own unique way of seeing the world and experiencing a play. And there are some foundational building blocks that I'm going to give you that are going to help you. And I remember when I came back here as a director, I worked on a play, and I felt that I had just not done well. Like, I just felt like, wow, I could not serve the students at all with this, and I had no business doing it, and, you know, all of that. And I went into Gerald's office, and I sat down, and he said, well, and I said, well, apparently that was the play that was going to show me the limits of my ability as a director. And without missing a beat, he said, darling, you weren't shown your limitations. You were just shown your lack of experience. Keep coming back. Keep doing it.
He would sometimes start a sentence with, you know, sometimes you're working with an inexperienced director or an inexperienced actor, and he would even catch himself on it, but it was important for him to make the point, not just for himself, but for us, that it is not about good or bad. You know, that is a subjective thing that we're not even talking about. We're talking about experience and inexperience. Are you getting the things right that are possible to get right? Like facing your people out at the right time and having the attention in the light. And it's just a standard of, are you doing the fundamental things that work, the meat and potatoes, as you said.
Yeah.
So you picked that stuff up? Did it sink in while you were here?
Yeah. Now, I came to School of the Arts at the age of 27.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 4 years at the University of Vermont doing theater, plus Franklin College. And when I met with Gerald and I talked about my theater training, it was really important to him that, because the first 2 years in the actor training, he wanted to be sure that I had the equivalent.
Right.
Now, I didn't have Bob Francisconi, so I did not have the equivalent.
The equivalent is a hard thing to get.
Yeah, but I had quite a bit of experience.
Right.
And he said to me, well, you can talk the talk. Let's see if you can walk the walk.
Right.
And so that's what got me here.
What was the first project you did? What was the third-year project you did?
My 10-minute scene was Henri's Beckett, the scene in the field. And I cast Jeremy Webb, who I thought was spectacular. And then he told me who to cast in the other role. And I did, because he was such a talented actor, and I didn't have access yet to knowing other students' work and stuff. So I cast this other person, and it was okay, but the lesson that I took from it was, I need to own my casting.
Right.
It needs to come from me.
So 20-minute?
20-minute was a one-act called The Great Nebula in Orion with Missy Pyle.
Nice.
And Christy Lockhart.
There you go.
Lanford Wilson, one act.
How'd that go?
Good. Again, like that I cast. And, I just think it's the best kept secret of directing. Cast it well and then just get out of the way.
Yep.
100%. And they were great. They were great to work with. They were just such talented actors, and yeah.
Yeah, some people, and this is, no offense to anyone in particular, though plenty might take it if they knew it was pointed at them. Some people would pick some other people, and I would be like, why take the risk, man? Why make you work harder? Like, you literally picked a person that, like, we all know is not that great and struggles with ... I hold no qualms with saying, like, there are a lot of great people I never got to work with, but when I cast my pieces, I straight up try to pick the best people in the class without, who I thought would suit the roles and stuff like that. But I often picked the plays for the actors I knew were available because it's exactly what you say. Just let something awesome be awesome and
so smart.
Just turn the lights on.
Yep.
Point them, hopefully. But then again, it's third-year directing scenes, so we'll see. So what was your fourth-year project?
The first act of Ibsen's Ghosts with Chidemo Nat and John Langs. It's all about the casting, people.
Enough at you.
It's all about the casting. Amazing. And Bill Tribby, for people who know Bill Tribby from General Studies, another teacher.
Mm-hmm. Chidem was just here.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And John won't be here anytime soon for a while because he's
busy artistic director.
Wiley's at his side.
That's right.
It's pretty cool.
And Lorenzo's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Do you have you been up to Seattle much? You work much up in the Northwest?
I've never been to Seattle.
Me either.
And would love to go. And
Let's
I'm going to
go.
go and see Lorenzo. So I think it's going to be...
When are you going?
I think in the spring.
Okay.
May.
I'm going to be in LA.
Come on up.
We'll figure it out.
Yep.
That sounds like a party.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good time doing that.
It's going to be good.
Totally. Yeah, and I think Wiley's going to be out there for like a whole year, so that's cool. It's cool to see. Here's what I really love. I don't know how much we have in Atlanta, which I guess would be the other corner, but Daniel is down in Sarasota.
Mm-hmm.
And Wiley is in Seattle working with John, who's created, building a whole,
right.
new network up there, community for us, which when I was going to school here was nothing. No one talked about Seattle as a thing at all. And now with everything that's going up there, it's really great. And Sean Murray's at the Signet.
Right.
And, there's stuff in LA because there's always been stuff in LA. But, it's cool to see that we're really staking out some new places and specifically, all over the country and in new and interesting ways.
Yeah.
That's an exciting thing to see.
There is an alum in LA with a theater company.
Right.
Jay, I can't think of his last name, who graduated in the mid 80s, I want to say. And I can't think of the name of the theater company, but
Cool stuff?
Cool stuff, too.
Nice. And Skidmore just moved out there.
To Atlanta?
No, to LA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeremy's in LA.
Yeah, he was just at the Malibu Playhouse.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
show.
I think he just cast Halle Cooper in something.
Great.
They're doing something out there. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff going on out there, which is really cool.
He's interim artistic director or something.
Of course.
That's it, folks. I wish I had more. Obviously, that she's not in LA. That was from a talk we had in December during intensive arts while she was teaching at school. And it was great. It was short. I wish it had been longer, but, it's what it is. I got Quinn Gordon on the next episode for you. Then probably Joe. But, I'm going to stop trying to forecast for this show. That's, never worked out for me. So, on the remarks of the things I said earlier in the episode, a lot of promises unfulfilled. Going forward, take the show for what it is. I'm going to try to stop promising you things in general and just try to make awesome things happen for you. So for those of you who stuck around to the end, thank you so much. And play us out, Daniel. Oh, and one more thing really quickly. That play I mentioned at the end that Jeremy Skidmore's directing Halle Cooper in still has one more weekend at Malibu Playhouse. Mary's Wedding. Go see it.
So I've been reading about nameless things. Don't ask me what they are.